Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. Pacific time, with your live weekly reading where we do a tarot spread. Well, we do a tarot card and an angel spread for each person. It is daylight savings time, so people might be a little thrown off by that today. And where I live, there is high winds, which is making my hair stick to my head. Pardon me. I'm going to kind of blather on a little bit, see if people enter the room. Small Wildflowers will not be with us today. I think she's going to catch some extra Z's. Again, the time change sort of caught me by surprise. I didn't even know the time changed until I woke up this morning. Welcome, CC Pups. How are you today? I think it was you last week that asked me to put link. Good morning, Les. It's good to see you. To put a link so that if you guys wanted to buy me a cup of coffee, drop a tip. I've done that. I opened I got you a PayPal link, and then there's an Apple Pay link at the bottom of the description here. Good morning, Dusk. Good to see you. So you can do that. I tried to open a Venmo, but it's Mercury retrograde and it just kept zipping around. So anyway, so I did do that. I hope that helps. If for some reason you want to send a tip, those are, again, at the bottom of the description. Let's talk about the week. You know, as I was pondering these times, because they're very, very bizarre. And when I say bizarre, it just feels like whatever could be the most craziest choice seems to be made. And I think that has something to do with the United States having the South Node conjunct its natal Pluto. Yes, no, Pluto is conjunct the United States natal South Node. I think, hi, just call me C. I think this is really important because the South Node representing old habits, things that get to be released, toxic waste, and then having Pluto coming in and bringing this underbelly in Aquarius. I believe the United States has a South Node at 6 degrees of Aquarius, and now Pluto's at 4 degrees. I say this because it's setting a stage. And the stage will be for us to determine whether or not we are going to allow whatever's happening around us to affect us in our individual lives. You know how people say, oh, go on a media diet, or, go on a media detox. This might be a good time to do that. Now, let me go back and tell you why I think this is so important. Right now, Venus and Saturn today are at 2 degrees of Aries. Neptune is at 1 degrees of Aries, and they're making a sextile to Pluto at 4 degrees of Aries. I'm sorry, of Aquarius. This sextile is some kind of, it requires an activation. It is a positive aspect that, once activated, brings bounty. But we have to use discernment. We have to put intention in. We have to decide, am I going to buy into this? Am I going to follow this path? Or am I going to pause for a minute and wait for the smoke to clear? There's something going on here right now, I think, in the stars that's asking us to sort of stand still and let the dust settle before we take action or before we come to some kind of conclusion. We have, on the 10th, Jupiter's going to go direct. Jupiter's been stationed at 15 degrees of Cancer, and when it moves direct, it's going to stay at 15 degrees of Cancer. I think that this is important, again, because while Jupiter is exalted, I feel like it's sitting dead center in Cancer, the sign of home, hearth, property, tradition, families, nurturing of families. And I think we're supposed, well, I shouldn't say supposed to, but I believe wholeheartedly that we are now energetically being tasked by Saturn and Venus and Neptune in Aries to be discerning, to be brave, to be, I don't know that it's about being rebellious on the outside. I don't know if it's about taking up arms and protesting or fighting, but rather sort of this interior decision. Will I allow myself to get worked up? Will I allow myself to fall into fear? Will I allow myself to fall into anger potentially? With Saturn and Venus at 2 degrees of Aries, there's a feeling of restriction that doesn't come from Venus in the way of partnerships. It feels more like money. It feels like it has a Taurus ring to it. It's like my money is being limited, or my resources feel limited, or my ability to birth my skills feels limited. And if you think about it, Venus is kind of, Venus and Saturn are exact at 2 degrees, but then there's Neptune. So Venus could be potentially sandwiched between these planets, or influenced between these planets, feeling a great sense of restriction due to authority, and then a feeling of being invisible and not mattering. That is a problem. And to me, that's what we're being tasked to do, because it may feel a little bit, and this is why I bring up the United States, because the United States, is in the forefront on the world stage of creating, well, I shouldn't say creating, but involved in chaotic events. We'll just put it that way. And I feel like we get to stand here sort of in this space of, how can I describe this more succinctly? Okay, I'm going to back up for a minute. It's going to sound a little weird, but I read and look at a lot of history. And throughout history, in times of great repression, there are people who represent expansion during that restriction, limitation, oppression. I think we're being tasked to open up to that, to be representative of expansion during times of contraction. So here, as Jupiter turns direct on the 10th, late in the evening in the Pacific time zone, as Pluto is sextiling Saturn and Neptune, Saturn, Neptune, and Venus, but I want to focus more on Venus and Saturn because they're moving into a tighter sextile. So where will I look at the limitations, the restrictions, the authority, the government, and will I default my value, Venus, based on that old structure, or will I on some level allow whatever comes up from the bowels, is the way I want to say it, whatever, whether it be my personal fears or what I see outside of myself, will I let that determine my energetic path, or will I claim my path? It's almost like, we all get to be a little bit of Moses and parting the Red Sea of BS and just being able to walk through it. And this is where I think Uranus and Taurus finally moving a degree this week will open things up a little bit. While there's no direct conversation with Uranus and these planets I'm talking about, I think that the whole, it's almost like being at a concert, and, you can hear the drum section, and you can hear the horns over here, and you can hear the strings over here. And while the horns and the strings may not be playing exactly together, they're complementing each other. So Uranus is complementing in Taurus at the final degrees, goes from 27 to 28 degrees, the anaretic degrees of the sign. And will I continue to sit in insecurity and look to the outside world as to whether there is fertile ground to walk on, or will I create that fertile ground to walk on? This is where I'm going. We also have Mars conjunct the North Node and Mercury retrograde by the end of the week. They're all floating around each other. This is in Pisces. So now communications could be murky. Communications could feel underwater. My thinking could feel underwater. Even I could feel a sense of anger and futility about it. Mars is not strong in Pisces in the sense of Mars, has to swim through the sea of emotion and compassion and being aware, rather than just looking at the elements within Mars's life in Pisces as chess pieces. He has to look at them as living, breathing things. So that's what I'm talking about. Hey, Audacity Theater, it's great to see you. We haven't seen you in a while. Small Wildflowers isn't going to be here today. I don't know if I mentioned that. I did mention it, but she's the time change, I don't know if you all had a time change, but we had a time change last night, and I didn't even know it was happening. I wasn't really paying attention. And I woke up and it was an hour later than I thought it was. So that happens. So I want to offer this. As we walk through this next week and then the week coming up, because we're going to have more and more awareness of the changes that are coming. And some of that change is going to feel very destructive. I can't help but look at, the United States is about to have a Uranus return. And that's not going to happen this year. It's going to happen probably next year, maybe 2027, 2028. And that conjunction, coupled with the South Node will have moved on, but the South Node conjunct the United States, or the transit Pluto conjunct the United States South Node in Aquarius is tasking this country to release toxic old bad habits. During that process, the perpetrator of bad habits will not maybe necessarily want to do that, or maybe not necessarily have a clear line to it, back and forth kind of things. What are one of the United States' bad habits is going to war, being the military, fighter for independence, supposedly. These are just the taglines. That could be make us feel very depleted on an energetic level. Having all this going around us could make us feel very like, what's the point? Why bother? Mars in Pisces, whatever I do, whatever actions I take feel underwater. If they feel invisible, it's kind of like, I was watching Traders last night. I love my traders. And there's one gal who is literally dead on about a trader, and yet nobody will listen to her. For some reason, she states her opinion and it gets lost, and the herd mentality takes over, and then the faithful is banished. So this is the kind of the background noise, I think, that's going on this week. Our truth will feel as if it might be invisible potentially. We could feel as if we're looking to the outside world on some level to create stability, but I don't know that it's there. So I think we're going to have to sort of take that into our own hands. And that's where I think the Uranus in Taurus element becomes powerful, because Taurus is really about my voice and what I speak, and not what necessarily what I speak to others, but what I speak in the way of my opinion. What do I believe? What are my, if Taurus rules our resources, which create security or insecurity, the voice is the representation of that. Do I feel secure or do I feel insecure? So Uranus being rebellious to, I'm not necessarily going to go with the crowd. I'm not going to either worry. I'm not going to stick my head in the sand, but I'm not going to immerse myself in destructive energies, conversations, media, etc. I just feel like this is on some level how we can define ourselves energetically to the universe and then insulate ourselves from maybe the wave of things that are coming ahead. And when I say wave of things, I mean the waves of fear and instability, because I definitely feel that that's coming, that we're all going to have this sense of, no matter what we do, how do we, create a strong foundation to walk further into our futures. And I think that's going to compel us to connect to spirit, whether you want to call it God, Jesus, source energy, or higher power. That's the lifeline. So if indeed, and that's where Jupiter kind of comes in and becomes stronger, because those of us that are aware can hunker down in Jupiter's energy and say, okay, for me, I'm requiring more evidence that my faith is warranted and that I am on some level representing what can be possible versus what potentially looks like it is. Because if you ask me, it looks very precarious. So that's what I have to say overall. And again, I state, I don't know if any of you have time changes in your time zones, but This one knocked me out. I was not expecting it. And I really could have used that hour of sleep. I don't know why. It seems like our ads running like crazy right now. It seems like it keeps notifying me that it's inserting ads, and I thought I turned that off. All right, are you guys ready to do your readings today? Happy birthday, Pisces. Hey, J-Dog, good to see you. Happy birthday, Pisces. Having Mercury retrograding through your sign during your birthday time, and depending upon, again, the degree, this is a good time to actually review the type of material, the type of media, the type of talk that you're I almost want to say in exchange with, being mindful, not necessarily of having to go back and look at contracts or reevaluate, but really sort of tune in a spiritual way to what am I declaring. Pisces is the sign of transcendence. It's the sign where we go into, or from the physical back into the collective. And I feel like on an ideal level, when you get into the Pisces energy, there becomes an understanding and a compassion for the part of life that feels so intangible. And so if we look at, for Pisces, if we look at right now with Mercury retrograding and Mars in your sign up against the North Node, there is a combination of being brave, being adventurous, being heroic in connecting with the deeper part of your soul's voice, wherever this Pisces energy is in your chart, and then taking that and looking at that as your staff, as your Excalibur, as your sword of truth. And rather than trying to assert yourself moving forward, slowing down and pacing yourself on an emotional level. Like I hope this is making sense. It's like having that epiphany of what would be most ideal for you, how you want to transcend, how you want to connect. And I think through creativity, a lot of this could be through creativity, through music, through poetry, through lyrics, through meditations, through intentional meditations. Spirit, I have a question about this. Why is the world so messed up right now? And then going into communication and meditation, and in your communication saying, I am willing to receive that information. I think oftentimes when we go into meditation, we're just trying to calm our brains down. And I think maybe this time, rather than trying to calm your brain down, use your brain as almost like a receiver, an antenna, and start to kind of work that way. Because when I think of Mercury moving through Pisces, and then with Mars, there could very well be a spiritual warrior being born. So there you go. Welcome, Sophia. Welcome, Georgia. Welcome, Dusk. It's good to see you all. Small Wildflowers is not with us today. She was just super tired. The time change kind of, I'll tell you, I really was not expecting it. And I've been making, or at least I've been trying to make sourdough bread. I haven't really made a full successful loaf, I'll admit. They're a little too dense still. I'm going to try again this afternoon. But so I was up late playing with dough. And at the time I thought it was 10 o'clock, but it was really 11 o'clock, or going to be 11 o'clock. So let's see. Let's start with our Pisces and see what your card is this week. Are you ready? We have the Knight of Cups. What a beautiful energy. This kind of rings back to Mars in Pisces. The knights represent this virile period of time. They're valiant, they're heroes in and of themselves. And now this is the hero of emotion. This is the brave knight of emotional exploration and emotional willingness. This character is holding his cup up to the heavens. And I want to offer this because this is exactly what I was saying. This week, even when you're walking down the street, driving your car, if there's something on your mind, just literally ask Spirit. I am asking with intention. I want to receive information about blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It could be about a red ribbon. I don't really think it matters. I think that this week, especially with Mercury retrograding, revisiting my communication with my soul's voice, my spirit, my source, my higher power, and anchoring that in is going to be what really brings comfort. So, because when I look at the Knight of Cups here, and we'll see how the spread turns out, I think there's going to be something brave for Pisces about emotions and what you need, what you require, and what you hope to experience for yourself. Let's see where we're going. And while I shuffle, hey, Audacity Theory, spring forward time change is the hardest. It kicks our behind. Stay mindful. Yeah, I really was not, I don't know why, for some reason, I thought it was later in the month. I even went to the internet and Googled when was it last year, and it was the same time last year, but I just hadn't been paying attention. And it was weird too, because I noticed when I don't really use my OK Google for anything but asking what time it is and what the weather is. And she kept saying, standard time. And I noticed it, but, it didn't register. All right. Because I'm really I have a little lack of paying attention lately. California does. I don't think Arizona does. And I don't know how they figure all that out, but California does. And that's where I am. Lucky me, right? Okay, here we go. Pisces, the Knight of Cups is being joined by Daniel and Ariel. They came out together. Hey, DJ, good to see you. Caressa is in the Angel's Advice. And then finally, we have Astera. All right. So the Knight of Cups is emotional, right? He is kind of like, to me there, when I look at them, the Knights, there's a Mars energy to all of them, because I always think of, young, virile, strong energy. Now, this is, how will you fill your cup? Daniel's the angel of marriage, but he's the angel of history within relationships and how that history affects your viewpoint about viability. Now, I wonder if this isn't about the relationship you have with your own emotions. And when I say that, I mean, not that you can't acknowledge them, but how do you claim them? How do they become a priority in your own personal life when you're interacting with others? This is for Pisces. Now, Pisces, rising, moon, sun, and stellium. We have the joy card joining Daniel. Ariel is being joined by the focus card. Caressa is being joined by the mystery card. And finally, the dog is joining Astera. For my Pisces, happy birthday again. This is a year to declare this is about yourself. And with the North Node in your first house, potentially your 12th house, depending upon how you're looking at your chart, Placidus or whole sign. I recommend Placidus, because Daniel, I think, is talking about having more intention and awareness and joy about how you are pursuing what it is you love and makes your heart sing. Now, that could be potentially a relationship, although I don't know that I see a relationship here. I think Daniel is representing your relationship with your happiness, your relationship with your creativity, your relationship with the music that that is the soundtrack of your life. Because Ariel is doubling down here on connecting with spirit. And those connections, that conversation you have, spirit, I want a parking space, let's start there. And as you start to do that connection and you focus on that, I think what you're going to see is the end of a cycle of feeling alone or feeling invisible or feeling like you're sometimes when the person who's the most compassionate is the person that's most invisible. And Caressa being joined by the mystery card, it's as if you're choosing to end a life cycle of invisibility or of over supportive someone else. It could even be somewhere where you have not acknowledged what your creative muse is, and now you're willing to claim it. Because Astera is saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. And here's the dog. The dog is about unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity. And I don't think this is about Pisces, about someone else. I think you're the Knight of Cups. You're the one who is still adventuring and growing and exploring within your creativity, within how you exchange loving energy. Love is sometimes interruptive. Love sometimes says, no, 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 that doesn't feel right. Love is not a blanket. You get to do whatever you want, and that's love. That's where I think it gets messed up. I love you even when you're bad, or I love you even when you're deceptive, or I love you even when I'm not feeling love back. I don't know that I think that's true. And I don't think it's about going to war, but if for some reason you're in relationships with people, it doesn't have to be a lover, and it doesn't feel like an even exchange, maybe that's the opportunity this week, is to connect with spirit and say, does this relationship still serve my highest and greatest good? And if it does, bring it back in balance so that I feel an exchange of energy. And whatever that relationship is, whether it be with your higher self, your creativity, another human being, I feel like this week is about taking your history in whatever you're endeavoring right now, and am I expressing and feeling joy and passion about it? And if for some reason I'm in a stall, then that's okay, because the love process, the creative process, the emotional process is not linear. It's not something that you can be Virgonian about. It's something that you have to be very flexible with and yet intentional about. So that's where I'm going. So this week, as Mercury is retrograding in your house, as Mars is up against all Mercury, Mars, and the North Node are all hanging out. So being brave, being willing to cut through the muck of your own mental restrictions potentially, or your history, and allowing yourself to continue to stretch for that North Node, whatever that is. And it could be simply to feel at peace with the choices you make. It doesn't have to be life-changing. It doesn't have to change the world. I think sometimes when we think, there'll be this talk, if what I do just changes one person or affects one person, who knows what that person will do? Have you ever thought that you were that person? That the very things that you're endeavoring, that you're thinking, that you're transmuting through, maybe you're the person. So that's where I'm going with that. Oh, goodness gracious. Onward and upward. We start with the birthday month and we work our way around the zodiac. And as requested by, I'm not sure who, I think it was CC Pups. If you want to make a donation or drop a tip, there is a link below, 2 links. One is to Apple Cash, the other is to PayPal. And then once the Mercury retrograde will let me, I'll put a few more links in there. I tried to do Venmo, but it wouldn't let me complete the cycle. Okay, are you ready to go on to our Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums? Your card this week is the 9 of Swords, but it's inverted. This is actually really good, because the 9 of Swords is a card of worry. It's a card where your mind is running amok and everything, all the bad stories are overwhelming you. With the 9 of Swords inverted, worry is muted. Worry has dissipated. So let's see where we're going with this, because your ruling planet is in Pisces. And, to the very evolved Mars-ruled person, I don't think having Mars in Pisces is negative. But for the average human, it can be you can feel like your actions are not respected. They're not powerful. They're not impactful. So here, I think that somewhere what we're going to do is we're going to see Aries, some worry is lifting in some way. And if that worry is about your ability to be effectual, thank you, DJ. I don't know what the time change actually does anymore. When I was a kid, they used to say it was because they didn't want children walking to school in the dark. I don't know what the reason would be now, because I don't think a child walks to school very much here in the United States. Maybe they do. Not here in Southern California. Okay. Aries, our first angel is Serena, the angel of abundance and money. Oh, so maybe this is about your about resources. The second angel is Shanti, the angel of tranquility and peace. The third is Aurora. You're flying high right now. And then finally, Archangel Michael, but he's upside down. Okay. You know, the thing about Aries and being an Aries rising, I can see this within myself. Aries wants instant results. It wants instant gratification. And sometimes when Aries doesn't get instant gratification, it will sometimes change course. And that's why they can kind of, Aries can kind of have, or Mars ruled people can have a reputation for not following through completely. And in this angel deck, Archangel Michael is about courage. So I'm wondering if this, we'll have to see where we're going here, but somewhere as the worry is lifting for Aries, there's also, we're being commanded to surrender or to be in a serene place. Let's see where we're going. Serena is being joined by the fire fairy, which is interesting because that is very Aryan. Shanti is being joined by the dog. Aurora is being joined by the lady at the lake. And the final card is the novice. Okay. So how I read this is Serena is the angel of it's not surrender. It's more of a confidence, and this is doubled down by the fire fairy and even the 9 of swords. Somewhere, even though Saturn, Neptune, and Venus are all in your house right now, you are being asked to be serene about whatever is going on, surrendering to a bigger picture that you can't see right now. These planets are on my south node. And I've thought about this because Pluto is also, or the south node, transit south node is on my Venus and heading towards my Pluto. And because it's in Virgo, I've kind of been worried, not worried, but I've had a lot of pet issues. But I don't feel them right now. I feel a sense of protection. 2025 was very difficult and there was a lot of deconstruction and a lot of loss. But now I feel like I'm in the rebuilding phase, and the rebuilding phase is not about jumping into action. Saturn, I have to slow it down. I have to look at how I'm building this new mental house that Venus represents in the way of my money, in the way of my confidence, in the way of using my skills. And Neptune, rather than being erosive, is really tasking me to be aware of the vibration and how I'm going about something. When you have a strong Aries energy, you can tend to be honestly, it can be very challenging because you can be, without realizing it, so stuck on people seeing your point of view that you shoot yourself in the foot. Okay. So here, I think that what we're talking about is being aware of what you want to take action on, this optimism, this creativity, and yet maybe the time is not right. Here we go. Mercury retrograde to take action. Shanti is about serenity and tranquility, and the dog is here representing loyalty and sincerity. I think something is being birthed for my Aries, and I think part of that is a hybrid of who you used to be and who you want to be. Because when I look at Aurora saying you're flying high right now, don't descend, and I see the lady of the lake being in this sort of tumultuous storm, yet holding Excalibur, the sword. Mars rules swords of truth. There could be that Aries is going through some kind of transformation, but you're not really at the starting gate. You're sort of approaching the starting gate. If you think about a horse race, there's a training period. There's a period where you even have to rest and give yourself a moment of recalibration before going back in. Because when I look at Archangel Michael upside down, and in this deck, it represents courage to make the change, I feel like the courage is to slow down. The courage is to really think about the ground I'm taking my first step on. Because as humans, what we don't realize is that we don't rest. We don't actually review. What we do is we pause. Oftentimes we'll hold our energetic breath, right? waiting for this transit to go by. And then inadvertently, we're taking action exactly the same way. So let me give you a kind of example for me. Last year was so hard on me. And the way I was running this channel was chasing the transits every month and trying to get out 12 videos for everybody of each sign and doing the monthlies and then trying to have my private clients and then clean my toilet and walk my dog. And I just felt overwhelmed. And then I realized that chasing the transits was what I wanted to do. I wanted to dig deeper. And yet the ideas have been coming, and yet there's a slowness to it. There's me falling into old habits of having passion about a video and then seeing that it's not, the audience isn't responding, and letting myself be deflated into no action. I feel like as an Aries rising, my job right now with all the transits around my South Node is to be aware of the vibrational platform with which I'm taking my action. Because when I've been taking my action in a way of feeling excited or passionate, or at least enjoying the process of doing the research, I have a different result than when all of a sudden I get triggered into Saturn's structure that I have to build and be a leader. And if you don't have this many numbers and you don't have this many likes and you don't have this you're not any good. So that's where I'm going with this. You have an unstable new beginning, and Spirit is asking you to be serene while you flesh out your creative ideas. And I want to tell you this, I believe that everybody can be creative in their genre, whether you work with numbers, whether you work in, with dead bodies that are, or whether you work in, in the arts. Everything is a creation, and you're part of that co-creation. So as you allow for pauses to be more rests and recalibrations, and that might be how you're feeling with your ruling planet in Pisces. You may feel slightly underwater, like, you're getting tired and you're having to tread water, but that treading of water is giving you permission to rethink, to assess, to analyze Mercury, how you're taking your actions. And the novice is never about perfection. It's about practice. So if you have a step back, there's something to learn. I'm not abandoning my channel, but I definitely know I'm still trying to find how, I want this channel to roll. It's not quite educational, but yet it is. I don't necessarily want to be a transit weather person, but, they affect everything. So I think that's, give yourself a little bit of a break, Aries, if you can mentally. Okay, here we go on to our Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. The Ace of Passion, the Ace of Wands, the infusion of new energy. This is very exciting. Wherever the Ace of Wands is coming, something is getting gassed up and ready to go. Ooh. Alrighty. Our first angel is Shanti, the angel of tranquility and peace. Chantal, the angel of love and romance. Maya, the angel of schooling and education. And finally, Crystal, the angel of things that you cannot see with your eyes. Now, Taurus's ruling planet, Venus, is sandwiched, between Saturn and Neptune, and will move past Saturn, I think, this week, towards the end of the week, but they're still kind of grouped together. So this could have an interesting dynamic. Shanti, the angel of peace and tranquility, is being joined by the Burden card. Chantal is being joined by the King. Maya is being joined by the Butterfly. And finally, Crystal's being joined by the Wealth card. So Taurus, God bless, I'm a Taurus moon. Financial security, resources, feeling that the ground is stable under your feet is just immensely important to you. But I want to offer this because the angel or the Ace of Wands is really tasking Taurus to have passion, to be, and I mean it this way, check into your passions, check in. And I want to offer this, okay? Because your passions don't have to change the world. If your passion is cleaning, fabulous. If your passion right now is, I'm exhausted from all of the outside noise, I just want to hunker into my home and make some bread or flip my pillows around and redecorate my house. I feel like this is really important. I feel like that Ace of Wands is saying that while tranquility and peace may be a burden to find right now because you're too busy looking into your history, going back, the Ace of Wands is compelling you forward. And I want to offer this too, because my early born Tauruses are feeling a sextile to, oh, I shouldn't say early borns, it's probably mid, but you could be feeling a sextile between your Pisces energy and your first house, which is somewhere around your 11th house. Maybe it's a little bit of your 12th house, depending upon the degree. And I say this because that sextile that's being made between the Taurus energy and the Pisces energy is not about review with judgment. It's about review with release. I feel like the king is tasking the Taurus energy to make what they love be the law. Okay, the king is the law, the king is justice, the king is authority. And while Chantal traditionally represents romance, most of my audience is not super young. And so romance and co-creation, marrying people may not be the highest priority. I think many in my audience are finding passions within themselves. So here Spirit is saying, remember, you're in a process. Remember that you're in the process of, Uranus has been unraveling old things, putting a lightning rod into some things and, kind of cattle prodding you forward. And as Uranus is in those late degrees of Taurus, you can still feel the electricity in the house, because Crystal is saying, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. And then there's the wealth card. And the wealth to me is not just having resources in the material, but for Taurus, it's feeling the flow. It's feeling the safety of those resources. There will be plenty. The universe will supply plenty. So here Spirit is saying, have a fire. Even if right now you're in a wobble about sustainability, about stability, putting the things that you love as a priority will help you recognize that you are in a constant process of co-creation with the universe. And when you co-create from a place of, I know the universe will bring me all the resources I need to blah, 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 you will absolutely see that in the material world. Okay, and this is what I think is Pluto's true transit through Aquarius is, and its conversation with Neptune and Uranus, which will go on back and forth for years. And this is where humanity will start to connect that their thoughts truly are things, and that worry is a form of prayer that doesn't serve you. It puts your attention and intention in the very experience you do not want to have. Okay. On to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We have the Knight of Swords. Earlier, we saw the Knight of Cups. And interestingly enough, the Knight of Cups is holding his cup to the right. And yet the Page of Swords is facing, when I look at it, to the left. I don't know if that looks like left to you, but when the card's here. And I think this is interesting because I'm thinking that the left represents the feminine, the receptive side of the body, and the right represents action. So we're looking at Pisces and we're about taking action when it comes to emotions. And now what we're looking at with our Geminis is receiving potential information. Again, this is an air element. And those lightning strikes feel to me like there's the potential through brave action for Gemini to have some kind of epiphany. Now, normally everybody says the Knight of Swords is a little spiky, and he can be, but then we get to remember that the Knight of Swords also holds that hero energy, the one that cuts through the barrier and goes in and becomes the hero. So let's see where the specifics are coming here. And as I look at this guy too, I notice he has a helmet on, and there is what appears to be a snake on top of the helmet. And to me, that almost feels like the snake is not about someone being a snake, but where can I shed the skin of thoughts that don't serve me? And how can I be brave and charge forward with what does serve me? Let's see. Your ruling planet is retrograde, squaring you right now. So this is really kind of like almost feels like a push-pull between, how will I approach a situation? How will I analyze a situation? Will I default to one way of thinking that is habitual? Let's see. Our first angel is Sonia, the angel of connection to loved ones on the other side. Rosetta is all about your divine connection to the child within. Azure is your desired outcome will happen. Don't force it. And finally, Yvonne is about vulnerability. And I think that vulnerability will be to your thoughts. That vulnerability will be to that Knight of Swords. Am I going to shed a skin that doesn't serve me? Will I allow for transformation, or will I take my history with me everywhere I go? Well, this happened and this happened and this happened, so this must be true. It was true then. Is it true now? Sonia is being joined by the Truth card. Oh my goodness, I love that. Rosetta's being joined by the Grail Knight. Azure's being joined by Merlin, and Yvonne is being joined by the Deer. Okay, for my Geminis, this to me feels very clear. Sonia is the angel of connection to the other side. And here your ruling planet is in the sign of connection to the other side. And I mean real, true. And when I say true, I mean potential to travel, to connect, to communicate, to put intention out and receive back. We don't think, or we don't bring up often, that Jupiter co-rules Pisces. Jupiter this week is stationing to move direct. Jupiter is the conversation and the ability to travel to foreign realms. And I believe the truth lies in your connection to spirit this week, in your willingness to be brave with your thoughts, to calm. And I want to offer this. It isn't about calming your thoughts. I think it's calming your breath. I don't know why all of a sudden with Gemini, I'm like, okay, I need to breathe more deeply. I need to feed that air to my pituitary gland. And I need to lay down the law of the night to my inner child. I am sacred. I serve the inner child. You are my queen, or you are my king. And as you do, the alchemy will show up. And what your desired outcome will be a direct result, not of your working hard, but of your intention to put your mind in the same place every time. Thank you, Spirit, for bringing me all the resources I need to facilitate ... Because now is a time of gentility and vulnerability. And the vulnerability comes to the back and forth of my thoughts and my willingness to recognize sometimes where you say to Spirit, I am in a human body. Okay. Every day the news tells me I'm going to be broke. My body's going to drop over and nothing good is about to happen. And if they don't tell me that about me personally, the world at large is falling apart. So as a Gemini, I say to you, Spirit, I need a deeper truth. Spirit, I need to know that no matter what, I blah, 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 what is important to you. And then you honor that. You honor and protect it. You act as the knight within your own world to protect your thoughts, to protect your voice. Whenever, I'm so hot right now, I got to tell you, I'm like sweating. Whenever you are contemplating something, having the awareness of where your default goes to, because Gemini, being the teacher, being the communicator, you're naturally going to look at two sides of a situation. But where will you land? And at best, hopefully you land in the middle, because that's where I think you're walking through a week of vulnerability to a deeper truth, and potentially having your own thoughts be semi-annoying because they're going back and forth, or they're defaulting to the old story. Your brain is like an organ, okay? It has its own muscle memory. That's why when I was a girl, I don't know if they talk about this much anymore, but when I was a girl, they would say how your personality was formed within the first 5 years of your life. And in the same way, your brain's impressions are formed in those years. And so you will have a default. But that's why your awareness of Jupiter in Cancer is so important, because Jupiter in Cancer will be reflecting the beliefs that came from your home, the beliefs that you took as absolute truths, and maybe they're no longer absolute truths. Maybe there's something bigger behind that, and now you have an opportunity to recalibrate it. Okay, on to our Cancers. Speaking of Cancer, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And I want to say to my Cancers, taking advantage of Jupiter being exalted in your first house. And when I say that, taking advantage, it looks like this. Hey, Spirit, your planet, Jupiter, is literally in the sign of myself and who I am. Thank you for helping me to incorporate and believe in my own personal expansion, in the idea that I can travel within my own mind and theorize and hypothesize and contemplate what it would be like with all the bounty and and I want to use the word riches that Jupiter bestows. Let's see what your card is, Cancer. The Six of Cups. This is a card of childhood nostalgia. This is a card that brings in a sense of naivete, very much makes you think of home and hearth and how you were, your childhood friends, who you hung out with. This is a lovely card. It speaks of life before adulting, before reality, before the 6 o'clock news. Let's see where we're going. All right, Cancer, our first angel is Isabella. Yes, the timing is right for a new adventure. Aurora is saying you're flying high right now, don't descend. Celeste talks about a happy move to a new home or place of employment. And Isaiah is talking about protection during changes. Now, oftentimes, Celeste for me is a shift in the way I'm thinking, because you could put my physical body anywhere, and I have a certain way of believing, and that will create its own law of attraction. Cancer, Isabella is being joined by the partnership card. Aurora is being joined by the Queen. Celeste is being joined by the Death card. And the Baird is joining Isaiah. Okay, this is to me, Cancer, this is very clear cut. The Six of Cups is asking you to go back to a place of naivete, a place where you believed in magic, where you believed that police were good and that the world was a good place and there were happy endings. Isabella says the timing is right, and then there's the partnership card. If indeed any of you are looking to have companionship, are looking to connect, even if you're already technically in a relationship with someone, but you want a deeper sense of connection, focusing in on that. Aurora is saying the time that you're flying high right now, don't descend. That is the Queen. The Queen represents women. It represents the receptive energy. It also represents fertility. If anybody watching this is trying to have a child right now, there's a very good possibility that you could get pregnant unexpectedly. So for some reason at 66, I'm not sure my audience is of childbearing years. So when you're thinking about what do you want to create, what do you want to be fertile, it will come to you in a receptive energy when you can muse about it and think about it as if the universe is benign and benevolent and bestowing upon you the things you want, because somewhere there's a shift in the way you're thinking. When Celeste talks about a happy move to a new home and a new place of employment, those material things are possible. But when it's in the angel's advice, it's absolutely about how you think. And the death card to me is a transformation. It's an awareness. And that awareness would be that the best assertion I can do is to assert first through my emotions then through my mind, and my mind will bring me inspired ideas. Because now it's about telling a new story. Literally, the Isaiah is a gestation process, and the Baird is the history of storytelling. So, if indeed you want connection to the things that bring you happiness, the things that bring back a sense of excitement, joy, and trust in the world, start calling forth those experiences. Thank you for bringing me. I had the other day, well, this didn't happen the other day, but I remembered it. Last summer at some point, I can't remember, I was trying to cross the street, and I live on a busy highway, and there was a kid in a golf cart, and he was probably in his 30s. I call him a kid now because I'm so old, but he saw me trying to cross. I was kept stepping out and coming back, and then he's like, come jump on my golf cart, and he whizzed around, and I felt like I was 20 years old again. That's exactly something I would have done in my 20s: jump on a stranger's golf cart and have them take me where I need to go. And it felt good. There was a sense of almost a vitality that was shot through me in that moment. I feel like for my Cancer, Spirit is asking you to come into partnership with your dreams and your desires. And even though they may not be sitting on the table ready to be eaten, they are being prepared. And the more that you can smell the aroma in the house, the more you can contemplate it, the more you can tell the story of it, the faster it will reveal itself to you. And I definitely want to say for my Cancers, to take advantage of Jupiter's connection, to take advantage of the next few months, because then as a Cancer rising, the next house is Leo. And Leo in your second house can bring immense bounty as well as in Cancer. Cancer probably has a little leg up, but I think that Jupiter, when it moves into Leo, is going to be very, very fortuitous for us on a personal level. So remember your speak and your self-talk, not just the words that you tell other people, but the words you tell yourself when no one else is around. Okay. Onward and upward. Lou, where are you? Lulu, where are you? Lulu? Lou, where are you? I don't know where my dog went. All right. And she's not coming when I call her. Oh, okay. Here we go, Leo. This is the death card, but it's upside down. So something is not transforming. No ordinary film. That's an exciting name. That would imply that potentially you're a filmmaker and you don't make ordinary films. Where's my girl? Lulu. Oh, there she is. She's in her little bed over there. I'm a Cancerian. Well, welcome, Cancerian. We just did your reading. Well, we're on to Leos right now. All right, the death card is being joined by Isabella. That's very interesting. We have that just similar. We have Akasha, but Akasha is upside down. We have Desiree in the Angel's Advice, and finally Teresa. All right, wow. The death card upside down would infer that something is not changing. Something has remained the same, but it could potentially be stagnant, or it could be thwarting something. I'm kind of getting this feeling as if Spirit is saying, yes, the timing is right, but it's right to start for the transformation that the death card has been stalling. Okay, I have to kind of go back a little bit and show you this card, because as I was starting to pull out the next card, you can see with the death card upside down, this ring right here is actually a human. So it almost looks like this person has been upside down, turning themselves into a pretzel. And maybe Spirit is saying to Leo, I don't know about that anymore. Because now, yes, the timing is right to be an authority in your life, to take charge. Leo, Akasha is upside down and she is being joined by the swan. Desiree is being joined by the forgiveness card, and Teresa is being joined by the dragon. All right. Um, okay. So for my Leos, and I absolutely believe that everybody is in their own journey on the planet, whether you're aware that you're evolving or not, okay? But here, Spirit is saying it's time to be the authority in your life. It's time to start to allow your transformation to be more a priority or more solid than it has been. Maybe you've just been thinking about it. Let's say that you've been in a relationship and it's going back and forth. It could be a friendship, it could be a family relationship, it could be an intimate relationship, but there's something that's just been chronically off because spirit, the Akasha, the spiritual teacher, is upside down, and the swan is about transformation. To me, this transformation is you can't teach anybody anything. Don't try to teach anybody anything. Take care of thyself, because Desiree is saying conditions aren't favorable, and then there's the forgiveness card. Now I am a Taurus moon. I am stubborn. I have Mercury in Scorpio, and I don't know if I would say I'm a forgiving woman, because I'm not a blanket. I don't just forgive you because you walked in and went, I'm sorry. But real authentic apologies, I can absolutely forgive. But here, what this looks like to me is that somewhere Leo has been going around in a loop. Somewhere you've been giving your power away. Somewhere you're not paying attention to your own spiritual tools and thwarting your own transformation. And now is a time of reconciliation. What I prefer the word reconciliation over forgiveness, because forgiveness feels like a blanket, feels like a welcome mat that I'm just saying, walk all over me. But when I can reconcile a negative experience, then I can turn it into something I feel is positive, or something that a tool of wisdom. Because it looks to me like you've been worrying about everybody else but yourself. That would be Teresa. And the dragon is about power and strength, but through a calm, through the authority of a king. So I think somewhere that you could potentially be stuck or going around in a cul-de-sac. And instead of using your spiritual tools, you're defaulting to your humanness or to your disempowerment. And that to me feels like it's not necessarily negative. No, there's nothing wrong per se. This would be more about an awareness of how you're approaching things. Are you actually a Leo? No Ordinary Film? This is for the Leo energy. You said you're a Cancer, but you might have a Leo moon or a Leo rising. Your result's going to come in May. I don't know what that means. Does that means you took a test or something? This is a general reading. So for general Leo energy, rising, moon, sun, or stelliums, which is 3 or more personal planets in Leo, the time is right for you to become the authority, the law in your life. The time is right for you to engage your spiritual tools. Your spiritual tools include your creativity, and to allow for the transformation. It might be a good time to not just ignore something, whether it be something in someone else or something within yourself, because now is a time to stop worrying and start asserting yourself with a sense of calm, power, and strength, with a sense of self-assuredness. Got it? Okay, let's move on to our Virgos. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And won't we be happy when the South Node leaves Virgo? But when the South Node leaves Virgo and it moves into Leo, that's going to be a very interesting time, because the President of the United States has a 29-degree Leo rising. And I think that that's going to affect things. And the Vice President of the United States is also a Leo rising. And we know that Pluto is opposing Leo. So, all right, let's go on to our Virgos. The Prince of Swords, but the Prince of Swords is upside down. The pages always represent sort of an innocent energy coming in. Sometimes with the Page of Swords, people will say there are harsh words, or there can be conversation that is impatient, is a word I might use. But now we're looking at it upside down, and we're talking about Virgo, the sign of Well, I actually have started to buy into Christopher Witecki's theory that Virgo is ruled by Chiron. But let's just say that Mercury rules. Mercury's exalted in Virgo. So either way, Mercury has influence in Virgo. And I'm wondering if Mercury's retrograde in Pisces, which is opposing Virgo right now, might be creating some challenges, which is why we're seeing this upside down sword or Prince of Swords. It could be that you're trying to communicate and it's not landing, it's foggy. Let's see where we're going. Welcome, Susie. Good to see you in the room. Yes, it's almost spring. Not quite spring. It's so weird, the weather here. Like 1 minute it's cold. Yesterday it was windy as all get up. Everything had electric static on it. And today it's going to be 84 degrees. Boy, I know I'm wearing a sweater, but it's a light sweater. All right, Virgo, let's see where we're going. Our first angel is Xana, the angel of protection, but it's upside down. Archangel Raphael, the angel of healing, is in the opportunity of the obstacle. Bethany is in the angel's advice. And finally, Isabella. I mean, the talk about weird weather wasn't it just like complete, like, weren't you under a blanket of snow a week ago? All right, Xana is upside down, being joined by the frog. Interesting. Archangel Michael is being joined by, I'm sorry, that was Archangel Raphael being joined by the dragon. Bethany is being joined by the dog. Oh my goodness, this seems, I don't know, these feel very clear to me this morning. And Isabella is being joined by the cat. Okay, Virgo. Virgo rules the sign of service to others. Now, technically, in astrology, I think people think that's literally doing things for other people. But what I think is that it is taking the talents and skills from my fifth house and taking them into my sixth house. So, where I'm going with my Virgos is your thoughts might feel upside down. You might even be experiencing a bit of feeling. I mean, think about it. The South Node going through your first house, it would be constantly tasking you to release anything or allow the excretion of anything that doesn't serve balance, that doesn't actually serve your good health, that doesn't serve your productivity. Because the frog is about releasing emotional baggage, and Xana is upside down. Xana will talk about harm from the past. Mercury going through the opposite sign of Pisces right now could bring thoughts, people of the past that you feel obligated to in some way, that pull on your heartstrings, but that don't actually feel good on the inside to you. Because Archangel Raphael and the dragon is really about your healing is going to come from the epiphany that it isn't your job. It isn't your job to heal anybody. You know, everybody's job is to heal themselves. All you can do is shine a light on the potentials of representing how that looks. Because Bethany is saying, be loyal to yourself. The dog is saying, be loyal to yourself. So if you want to actually facilitate and help others, physician, heal thyself. Put the mask on you before you put it on the baby. Because right now the cat is telling you to have independence from that which enslaves you, from that which makes you feel vulnerable, from thoughts that you have to, should, you know. Memory of the sky. I think Juno being an asteroid of commitment would be more Libra. Yeah, Juno could rule Libra. I can see that. But Christopher Witecki thinks that the Earth rules Taurus and Venus rules Libra. And I think that that makes sense to me because Venus has no moons as a planet. So to me, she would be ravenous to connect and to feel the balance of connection. Anyway, all right, speaking of Libra, let's move on to our Libras. Be mindful, Virgo, of trying to be too perfect. Be mindful of the habits you have of the have to, should, the plotting, the planning. And I'm not saying we shouldn't plan, but we always have to kind of have a little wiggle room in our plans. You know how you get to the airport early so you don't miss your flight, but you may sit there and go to the bar for 2 hours. Who knows? I think that's kind of like that kind of thing. Yes, Taurus is an earth sign, absolutely, which is why the earth ruling Taurus makes perfect sense to me. It's where we nurture the land, where we grow on the land. Okay. And why wouldn't Earth rule anything? All the other planets rule everything. But because humans look out, they give their power away. It makes perfect sense in my mind. Okay. Are you ready? We're going to Libra, right? Yeah. Okay. There's the King of Wands. I love that. Now I want every deck I use, I'm inspired in the morning. I'm like, Spirit, what deck should I use today? Look at these two lions. One is calm as a cucumber and the other is like growling. I wonder how this is playing out a little bit. Yes, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo are all earth. But they all provide different functions. To me, Virgo kind of utilizes the elements of the earth to heal, like herbs. Taurus grows those herbs. Capricorn builds. Capricorn makes bricks out of clay. Libra rising and Mercury in Libra, that's like a sweet song to me. DJ, that's like the type of person you're like, I could talk to you all day long. Pluto in Libra, yes, that's a generational planet, Pluto. So the people born with Pluto in Libra are people who are here to disrupt or excrete anything that doesn't bring in peace and harmony. Where are you, Sophia, in the world? There was I'm assuming maybe it was from the weather that there was no power. Are you in the United States? Hi, MK Mountain. Good to see you. All right, Libra, we have the King of Wands. And the Libra, the first card is Layla, spending time in nature with your desires and intentions. Isabel is yes, the timing is right. We have Serafina, but she's upside down. And then we have Omega, the victory card. When I saw Serafina talks about a happy change to your family. And I thought, remember, Libra, you're part of the family. I'm so not Libra-like. My North Node is in Libra. So while my Mars is in Libra, my Sun is in Libra, my North Node is in Libra, which is rather comical to me because the Sun is in fall in Libra, Mars is in detriment in Libra, and my North Node is something I haven't experienced and I'm stretching for. And in Placidus, this is all pretty much in my 6th house. So because I feel like this is, when I look at Libra and I look at the King of Wands and I see the two lions, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're having an interior war somewhere. There's a part of you that wants to, be that cooperative component, but then where do I fit into the mix? Okay, Layla for Libra is being joined by the protection card. Isabella is being joined by the risk card. Serafina is being joined by the Queen card. And Omega is being joined by the Truth card. Serafina is upside down. Memory of the sky, you were born near a full moon. Scorpio, I think, is the most intuitive sign in the whole zodiac. And when you have Mars in the first house of Scorpio, the co-ruler, you are empowered with understanding your Mars energy and transforming it. Okay, Libra, somewhere you're having an interior war between two sides of yourself. And Layla is saying, spend time by yourself. Put your feet in the grass, put your feet in salt water if you're snowed in, put some salt in the tub. This protection card comes from you remembering what's most important. And I want to offer this because if anybody, Libra or no Libra, thinks what's most important is for me to care for you before I care for myself, You are upside down because now it's time to risk what you know intuitively. That the reason that this angry lion is cranky is because if indeed you've been complacent in some way, you've given up your power in some way, or you've given up your desires in some way to appear cooperative, because this happy change to the family is upside down because it requires the queen to take her throne. And there's the victory and the truth card. This is where, let me encapsulate this. Libra is not a natural warrior, yet Libra rules cops, civil servants, people who enforce balance and fairness, attorneys. Here, there's something going on with Libra where you may feel two sides of yourself this week. You may feel, because Venus is your ruling planet, up against Saturn and Neptune, that there is authority, rules, obligations, responsibilities that is out of your control. There's nothing I can do. I must adhere. I must acquiesce. I must put focus on that. But is that really true? And your inner self may be roaring at you. Don't do the same things over and over again. I think the reason that Venus is a sketchy planet for me, because Venus, having no moons, can be ravenous for certain things. She can be super jealous. She can be super passive aggressive. And here, I think that the King of Wands is saying, stand in your authority. Know that if you take care of thyself, that you will then truly be victorious and be able to achieve the things that you want in the way of fostering peace and harmony with others. You know, when we think about Libra rising, and that's how I'm focusing in on the rising sign. Aries is your 7th house. With that happening, and with your ruling planet in her natural 7th house, but in detriment, and having Saturn and Neptune there is a revisiting from a spiritual aspect what is most important to you, and where inadvertently you may default to letting things slide by because, well, for the greater good. But is it for the greater good? Because if it doesn't include you, Libra, it's not really for the greater good. So trust your truth, and there lies your victory. All right, onward and upward. Mars and Pluto are in the same house, in your first house. Holy crap, you're here for total transfer. If you have Mars and Pluto in your first house, anybody, you are absolutely here being tasked to be brave and transform literally your whole sense of self. And I want to offer this too, because we don't really focus in on that. Scorpio rules the occult, you know, and Scorpio also rules the deepest psychology that a Scorpio ruled child will see truth that adults will be like, shh, don't say that. Shh. Absolutely, DJ. If you're a late degree rising sign, you are mostly the next house. I'm a late degree Aries rising, so yes, I'm Mars ruled, but my moon is in the first house of Taurus, and everything about me is about that. I take great pride in my emotional body. I'm super loyal. I take great offense to disloyalty, which I've experienced often. Okay. Onward to our Scorpios. Okay, we have the 3 of Wands. Now, this is interesting because this would infer that something that we've been planning is not quite ready to be birthed. The 3 of Wands traditionally is where a character is sitting on the shore and there's a ship out to sea, and this is the ship he's been waiting for, but it hasn't arrived yet. So this would infer on some level that there's a lack of direction, potentially. Let's see where we're going. In the middle of the ocean, Provincetown, which was farthest east north. So you're up near Canada? Is that what you're saying? And I only would know that geography from watching Oak Island on the History Channel. It gets very cold up there, and the wind chill up there is whoo. Okay, here we go. Scorpio. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Vanessa. Will you make your decisions based on faith or fear? Archangel Raphael is offering a healing through an epiphany of some kind. Archangel Michael is asking for courage. And then Bridget is asking you to look deeper into a situation. So this feels very emotional. I think that in the tarot deck, the wands are actually very emotional cards. We usually think of the cups, but when we think of fire, fire is passion, fire is anger. There's a lot of emotion attached to both those dynamics. So Scorpio maybe, and with your ruling planet in Aquarius squaring you, that's not easy. Vanessa is being joined by the serpent, knowledge and healing. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the trust card. Archangel Michael is being joined by the goblin. And Bridget is being joined by the hawk. All right, Scorpio, this is it. You know, we often think, okay, Pluto rules you, but Mars co-rules you. And Mars is known for impatience. Mars is known for giving up on things that, well, I'm going to try this, but it didn't happen fast enough, or I didn't get accolades, so I'm going to move on. Somewhere, whatever you've been endeavoring, it's still in process. And your job during this time is to stay the course. Do you have faith? Or are you just going to give up? Because the serpent here is really, to me, it feels like a healing card. It feels like shedding a skin. And that feels further evidenced by Archangel Raphael. And the trust card is a 47, which reduces down to an 11. So there's something about that that's ringing very strong to me, because it's about how am I thinking. And when we think about the idea of Scorpio, the signs, the fixed signs that are smushed in the middle, think about being on an airline, right? And you know, you're like the poor guy that gets the freaking middle seat, right? You don't know where to put your arms. Somebody's breathing heavy over here. Somebody's stretching their legs out over here, and you got nothing, right? That's sometimes what it can feel like, which is why I think the fixed signs, when they land on something, they become so intentional about it, because they're smushed in the middle. And that's why this trust card, being a 47, is important to recognize where you're thinking and where you're putting your focus. Because Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage to see where your ego might be telling you that story you're always squished in the middle somehow. Because Bridget is asking you to look deeper. Something is brewing that you can't see yet. And you've got to feel it. You've got to use your spidey sense. And I think Scorpio has the best spidey sense. When Scorpio is intentional and Scorpio is self-aware, Scorpio is the most powerful sign of the zodiac. Scorpio moon, crazy. Okay, that's my personal opinion and my personal observation. And if you have that Scorpio energy, watch yourself. Watch your intuitions be right. And there could potentially be where they initially are right about something that bruised your ego. But when you lift your vibration up, you'll start to see yourself feeling stronger about your connection to spirit, and that maybe something is working in your favor versus not. The hawk is an 11. The 47 reduces down to an 11. This is a harnessing of your awareness, and anything that is disrupting your awareness or disrupting your intentions could be because you're unaware of an old habit of thought or belief. And then the Mercury retrograde will help you flesh that out, because the Pisces trine will help support that dynamic. This is where I go back to when in the beginning of the broadcast, I mentioned that I was feeling I wasn't feeling the joy of astrology when I was doing chasing the transits, trying to get 12 videos out. Well, actually 14 videos every month. I just felt like I was constantly on this hamster wheel. And when I stopped that, and then I started doing things because I was impassioned by them, I noticed that Saturn videos for me tend to do really well. You would think Saturn rules restriction, it rules limitation, and that's where I get my 10,000 views. And so I'm starting to recognize that when I do videos on obligation to the audience versus passion from my heart, I don't have the same expansive experience. So that's been something because when I started to feel expansion, I started to default back into my old, how many numbers, how many likes, am I making any money? And I really feel like Spirit is like, take all that off the table. Who cares how many likes? Who cares how many subscribers? Who cares how much money? Why are you doing this, Teri? Are you doing this to make money, or are you doing this because this is your passion? And the truth is, it's my passion. So I have to keep recalibrating that right now. All right, on to our Saggies. Are you ready, Sag? Here we go. Oh, yay, the Devil card. This is not a bad card. This is the Capricorn energy of building. Now we look at the pictures and we feel the instant restriction of the devil. Let's see where we're going. I know it sometimes is hard to let go of the outcome because we're so pre-wired to make mommy happy, make the teachers happy, good baby doesn't cry. You know, we think that we're trying to, be self-focused. And yes, that we use the word narcissist about many people, but I think it's a boomerang. It's not true narcissism. It's something else, because narcissism is very, very criminal in some ways. So I kind of, I tend not to want to go to that extreme. Thank you, DJ. Oh, and while I'm shuffling, just for a little quick plug, last week I was encouraged once again to put links in the description so that if you wanted to tip me, you could. And I've got 2 at the bottom of this description. You should be able to click on the Apple Pay, Cash, whatever it is. And then there's a PayPal one if you want to put a little tip in there. Well, I want to say narcissism is awful, but there's a fine line, I think, because I'm a big advocate of self-awareness and taking care of the self, right? But at the same time, it's not that I feel like it serves other people when it's done in balance. I think narcissism tends to step on other people, and that's where it gets sketchy. Because when you're self-focused and self-regulating and aware and intentional with the universe, there's a lot of expansion that can happen. A lot of money can come in, a lot of notoriety and fame can come in. And it's kind of becomes, that's where it becomes, did I create this or did I facilitate this? And the narcissist will say, I created this. And the aware person will say, I facilitated it. That's kind of a very general kind of delineation, but there you go. All right, let's see what this Devil card is. Sagittarius, our first angel is Rosetta, the child within. The second is Merlina, but she's upside down. The third is Sonia, the angel of deceased loved ones. And final, Rochelle, which is all about your heart. Oh, thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. I think I have 13 likes now. I don't know what it says on your end. I appreciate that. Oh, Mother Nature. Honestly, there used to be this margarine commercial, don't mess with Mother Nature. And I'm telling you, really, the ultimate, this planet, this Earth, we all think we're running this planet, but the planet itself is taking care of itself. And it's not going to let mere mortals run the show. So yes, a storm is a good way of being able to feel your place in the world. Rosetta for Sagittarius is being joined by the Letting Go card. Merlina is upside down, being joined by the Eagle. Sonia is being joined by the Trust card. And Rochelle is being joined by the Cat. Okay, so for me, Rosetta is very much, it talks on the face of the card about having a gift working with children and parenting. I don't think so. To me, this is the gift of your inner child. This is the gift of, when I look at the Letting Go card, I cannot let go, but I can let it grow. Okay, I can extract divine wisdom. I can reconcile a situation. Spirit brought this big fat obstacle across my path so that I could conquer that obstacle and become more resilient, more empowered, more intentional. For my Sagittariuses, the devil is highlighting where you have restricted yourself, where you have put yourself in a little bubble, okay? And here, Spirit is saying, let your inner child grow. Let that child, whether it be, male or female, whatever you are, your inner child is a truer voice of what you want and what you want to experience. Merlina is a card that represents confusion. Now, I don't really think you should have a wizard representing confusion, but here today I'm buying it because the way out of the confusion is your connection to the angelic realm. Your connection to the angelic realm is not about trying to talk to your guides. It's about recognizing the soul, the part of you that lives outside the physical experience, the part of you that holds space for when you would go under the veil of unknowing. I'm never going to find love. I'm never going to feel financial security. The world's going to hell in a handbag and I'm not going to be safe, because this is where your trust lies. Your trust lies in your connection to your soul, the bigger part of you, because now is a time to assert your independence from your heart chakra. This is the time to, on some level, to test the devil. Are you going to think, do you think you can wrap me up? Do you think you can wrap me up in fear? Maybe you could for a while, but I don't know if I feel fearful now, because now, if we look at this on this card, the very top of the card is a wolf standing on the Capricorn symbol above a full moon. The devil can't get you when you trust your own heart, when you trust your own emotions, when you trust the emotions that say, I know that I am an eternal being, and in that eternalness there is a divine spark of creativity, and my job in this physical experience is to give life to that divine spark, regardless of what anybody else thinks or anyone else experiences. Scorpio, I got to tell you, Scorpio is so amazing, and also the unaware scorpionic person is very, very hard, because that fixed nature makes them a warrior for their divot, their hurt, their pain, where Pluto is knocking them up. That's the thing. What people Scorpios don't recognize is that Mars and Pluto ruling Scorpio is literally your soul said, I want great transformation in this lifetime. I want to be aware of power and control. I want to know where sex messes with my head, where money messes with my head, and I want to be brave to cut through the muck. Taylor Swift has a Scorpio rising with Mars on the ascendant, and when I was looking at her chart a couple of years ago, I thought it was so interesting because, her whole career was built on men that dissed her, or that, and she wrote songs about it. And it was kind of like, I thought, wow, what a double-edged sword, to have that late degree, first of all, scorpionic rising sign, because it makes most of Scorpio in the 12th house. Where have I felt invisible? Where have I felt no power, no control? Or where have I been overwhelmed? Or where have I been secretive in my power? And then with Mars on the ascendant, it not only tasks her to be brave, with her anger, with her own words, and it tasks her to be discerning, and then to use that Sagittarius first house where her sun is to expand upon it. So you can look the same thing in your charts. All right, on to our Capricorns, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. Absolutely memory of the sky, the ultimate phoenix rising energy, absolutely 100 million%. And that phoenix, when it rises, it's so sustainable, it's so strong, because it's been into that darkness, it understands it. And that understanding gives you more of a viewpoint from God's perspective, which is why then we move into the Sagittarius energy from Scorpio. All right, Capricorn, 5 of Cups, not an easy energy. No, it's a card of sorrow. It's a card of loss. It's a card of divorce. It's a card where I'm only paying attention to what has spilled, not what I have created. And if we look at this particular deck, very much the transformation of the butterflies, the colors that come from these the cups that remain. So there's a temporary energy here. There's something about the minute I looked at this, I felt like Capricorn could potentially be feeling a sense of aloneness, a sense of my transformation, who I'm evolving into, what I'm building is not being acknowledged by others. Capricorn doesn't like to build in concept. Capricorn wants to erect huge buildings and say, look what I built. They don't want to say, look what's in the architectural plans. They want it planted. So sometimes you can be hard on yourself because things can be actually growing or evolving, but because they're not planted for the rest of the world to see. So this might have something to do with you acknowledging your own growth, your own intention, what you're building. Let's see where we're going. Our first angel is Celeste, the angel of new employment or potential new home. But for me, it's always the mind, the shifting of the mind. You can put my physical in any place, and I think the same way. Maya is about schooling and education and what Pluto has taught you in your first house as it transited. Aurora is saying you're flying high right now. Don't descend into old behaviors. Don't go back into that cranky goat, because Athena is asking you to be powerful and in a loving way. All right, let's see. I absolutely feel like this is Capricorn defaulting into a little bit of humanness. And if you think about your ruling planet Saturn being conjunct Venus and Neptune, it could feel, if indeed we feel the erosive nature of Saturn and Neptune, meaning the restriction of Saturn, the dissipation of Neptune with Venus floating around, it could feel like money is not flowing. But does that mean it won't flow or resources won't flow all the time? It's a shift in your perception. Yes, you're gripped in fear. There's the fear card. Maya says that you know about timing and about how things take time to grow. Remember that. Aurora is saying you have to choose to look above a situation versus defaulting to your old way of being. And Athena is being joined by the Truth card. For my Capricorns, I would say this. Somewhere something's not moving fast enough for you, or it's not, it hasn't stabilized for you. And in some ways you're defaulting to old patterns. Maybe you want a new job, maybe you want a new place of employment, but for me, this is about shifting out of fear, being aware of my fear. What is my fear trying to teach me right now? Because what I know on a spiritual and energetic level is sometimes the timing is beyond me. My job is to put the bricks and the mortar out and prepare. Part of it is waiting for the spirit to bring the workmen to erect the building. And this is metaphoric, I'm saying, because in the angel's advice is you have to choose to fly high. You have to choose not to default into what can potentially be a little Eeyore, it's never going to happen. It's not going to work. I have so many responsibilities. I have to do this. I have to do that. No, Spirit is saying, assert yourself into your deeper truth, what you know, because sometimes things are out of your physical hands, but they're not out of your energetic influence. So when you keep your eye on the rainbows, on the two cups that are still here, providing whatever you need, rather than what might feel like it's been lost. Maybe it's not lost at all. Maybe that had rancid water in it and it's saving you. All right, on to our last sign of the day, our Aquariuses, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I did pretty good today. I'm trying to keep the broadcast at an hour and a half. We're only a few minutes over. All right, Aquarius, let's see what your card is. The moon. This is a Pisces energy. Oftentimes it can indicate confusion. It can indicate feeling murky, even that there are two sides. Normally we see like the feral wolf and then the dog. When I'm looking at this, there's a feeling of actually the clarity comes from not from what I can see with my eyes, but what I can feel with my heart. Let's look and see. Because Aquarius is so intellectual that sometimes, again, the emotional part, the part of, Aquarius can think about the cosmic consciousness and the collective, and think about humanity, and want to bring liberation to certain things. Lulu, love you so much. Please don't bark. But at the same time, there is a deep feeling of aloneness within the Aquarian energy, because that genius sits in a room and invents things. And sometimes the ideas that would help humanity are against the grain, we talk about a herd mentality sometimes, and Aquarius is beyond the herd and thinking over here. So there could be a feeling of aloneness with the Aquarian energy. And when I look at this moon and I'm looking at the idea of an 18, there's a feeling of Aquarius walking through a period of time. If we think about the second house for Aquarius is Pisces. Right now, we have Mercury retrograding. We have Mars there. This is your house of skills. This is your house of self-worth and security, and your house of resources. And it may feel a little watery to you, but I think it's also compelling you to dig deeper into what's important to you. So if inadvertently there's a bit of confusion as to, yes, I want to make the world a better place, but I need to make me better before I can make the world a better place. I need more money. I need a stable job. Something is going on, because again, Pluto is going through your first house, and that first house would be, transforming how you perceive or how you operate. It would also be illuminating a deep sense of psychology about who and what you are. And if for some reason the trigger of feeling less than is hitting you, that would be the fog that this moon would want to open up, being the moon, being that emotional body. And also I want to say this, because from Earth's perspective, humans only see one side of the moon. The rest of space is able to see the dark side of the moon, the cold side. And this might be part of what's going on, is that you're vacillating between the part of your emotions that people can see and then the part of your emotions that people cannot see. All right, our first angel is Isaiah, saying it's good time to give birth to new ideas. You're being protected. Victory in the form of Omega is your opportunity. Rosetta is here talking about your inner child. And then finally is Francesca, literally asking, what are you visualizing? And that can be what's going back and forth with that moon. And when I say back and forth, it's like 1 minute I believe, the next minute I'm unsure. I really think that the moon, to me, the only reason there's confusion is because I'm not listening to my emotional body. Isaiah is being joined by the forgiveness card. Omega is being joined by the transformational swan. Rosetta is being joined by the water fairy. And finally, Francesca is being joined by the novice in the new beginning. Aquarius has a hero energy to me. Because when you think about it, I'm going into places where people feel less than, exiled, where things are out of balance and the collective is not being considered. The people, the 11th house is the people. It's also a house of social networks. So here, there's something about my Aquarius is a new beginning is being offered to you, and it will bring in a reconciliation. So if for some reason you're having trepidation, Pluto is blowing something up for you. If Pluto is bringing something to the surface that up until now hasn't revealed itself. And this can be really hard on people that are of a certain age, when you've carried a certain persona around. I'm the hero. And then you're going through your own issues, and it's exposing that you're just a mere mortal. Because the victory comes in your willingness to transform, in your willingness to see yourself as the swan instead of the ugly duckling. So there may be, and also this is, when I look at this swan, she's taking flight. She's not in flight. She's coming out of the water of some emotional dynamic, going back here to this moon. Rosetta in the angel's advice and the water fairy. The water fairy is a 28 that reduces down to a 10. There is an opportunity for you to be aware of an inner child and the emotions of that child before they became an adult. The emotions of that child that when they looked to their future, they saw magic. They didn't see mayhem. Because Francesca is asking you what are you visualizing? That negativity will block your progress, and the novice is offering an unstable new beginning. Innocence without practice, it's almost like being it's a skill. And I think that skill right now is deciphering between being annoyed with what has been and being excited about what can be. Being annoyed by what has been would be, maybe focusing in on the fact that everything's going up. Everything is so expensive. There's no resources. Water is running out. Days are too short. The world is at war. I mean, there's so many things that we could look at and feel. I literally feel like I'm back in the 80s when, the Olympics was taken over. And I remember having a complete meltdown to my parents that why even try to assert a path in life? Everything's going to hell in a handbag. We can't even have the Olympic Games without violence. And I think that might be part of what's going on. Aquarius may be caught between even wanting to have a bit of a rebellion and yet at the same time wanting things to stay the same. Remember that Saturn co-rules Aquarius, and Saturn is in Aries right now, and Aries and Aquarius complement each other in the sense that they both have a strong drive for change and are willing to fight for it. So here, if this week presents confusion or emotional fog, I think it's important to listen to a deeper voice and discern whether that voice is standing in alignment with the truth of the peace that you want. I kind of think of Aquarius kind of like someone from Star Wars, right? You're fighting for the Federation to have peace and for there to be a right to live, and yet you're in constant chaos. And that might be just pulling a little bit on your purse strings right now, a little bit on your emotional body. You may be feeling just a little weary of the good fight, That's where Francesca's coming in and where the novice is saying, continue to look for divine disruption, not just disruption. All right, so that's it this week. I'll be back next week. And then we'll be having Easter coming up one of these times soon. So we'll have to look at the calendar because we're going to take that Easter Sunday off. In the meantime, I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you for your likes. Thank you, DJ, for your tip. I appreciate you. If you guys want a private reading, I'm available both for intuitive readings as well as astrology readings. And I'm going to say peace out and go back to my sourdough bread making. Hopefully this will be a good and fluffy loaf. I've been over kneading my dough, I think. All right, sending love to you. Thank you so much, Memory of the Sky, and everybody else who is new here this week. Thank you for joining. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff that Spirit says, why are you saying that? As I said it, I'm like, because I'm still in my human body and I'm trying to ignore the numbers. All right, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye. Can never find where they put this stuff now.